Allegiances. Every individual has a metaphysics. For some, it will be a thoroughly considered and examined construct. For others, it will be a thin veneer of concepts, little understood and never reflected upon. Even when the individual metaphysics extends no deeper than the surface level, the perspective will still be unique. As every understanding is contingent on experience, no two understandings can ever be identical. Whether one happens to think about it or not, metaphysical assumptions are required to orient to existence. Living an examined life means affirming a reality structure. It is an impossible task to satisfactorily convey a picture of the whole. Putting the thing into words is an imperfect way to describe it, and it does not conform to the limits of language. What can one do but try, though? Try a new configuration, or try to make it simpler. Maybe find a new insight in the attempt. Some say that the mind is not a constant across time, but attention is a constant. To say it begins with the mind is to refer to a structure of attention. This simple definition applies at the level of the man, and, by degrees, it applies through the chain of forms. The dog has a mind, the bird has a mind, the cell has a mind, and so on. No clear reason presents itself to suppose that this should not apply all the way down, so apply it all the way down. Panpsychism is a component of reality. Though we are limited, and from our limited perspective suffer a great many misapprehensions, we can convey meaning. The structure of experience that makes up a mind shares structural components with other minds. Reality is presented to a mind via the symbols particular to the level of that mind. The symbols of one level are composed of lower symbols and, in turn, are components of higher symbols. The shared structures are fractal. The way the shared structures underlie perception at all levels of mind is akin to the way a segment of holographic film recreates a version of the original object. Holography is an analogy for the way each individual accesses the shared structures of mind. The cells of the human body collectively amount to meaning at the level of the human mind. All kinds of different forms occupy the same realm, with meaning at one level corresponding to meaning at other levels. That the experience of the simplest minds corresponds to meaning at the human level and beyond requires a consistent structure. An order spans from the simplest to the most complex and guarantees correspondence at every level. The panpsychist perspective and the holographic nature of shared perception imply an ultimate and complete mind. The shared structure is only one part of individual perception. Each mind occupies a different position relative to other minds, so each is a unique configuration of shared components. The unique configuration yields a singular perspective. A useful analogy is found in configurations of sounds producing different music. The available notes are the same, but the songs are different. The same point can also be made by examining the limits of objectivity. Two people might agree that there is a wooden table in front of them. They might agree on the color, but they might not. One might know the type of wood and the style of the construction, while the other has no idea about such things. One might have had a table just like it in the kitchen of his childhood home, while to the other it is categorized more generally. The potential examples continue, but the point is that every perception is a combination of shared components and a unique private configuration. Recognizing that the configuration of each mind is unique is acknowledging that the subjective experience for a mind is different. At the level of simple forms, this difference is too subtle for us to appreciate, but it is there. Indeterminacy is a quality of existence all the way down. The most important consequence of the unique aspects of mind is the effect this has on the shared structures. Unique minds are changing. The shared structure is a function of all minds, from the lowest to the highest. The shared structure is not static, it is fluid. The effects the minds have on the configuration of the shared structure occur both at specific levels of shared perception, such as the human level, and are reflected in changes in the whole. The focus of many human minds on a given region of the shared structure creates shared thought forms, or egregores. The existence of an egregore facilitates or enhances attention. All well-defined areas of shared attention could be understood as egregores. It is because there is a skateboarding egregore that the sport continually progresses, and previously impossible tricks become doable. In terms of perception and potential, new skaters are standing on the shoulders of their predecessors, whether they consciously know of them or not. Egregores exist at all levels of mind. The shared structure defines the limits of shared perception at different levels. There is a limit to the symbols that can be utilized between minds. As such, there is a defined structure of potential that exists relative to each mind and relative to any grouping of minds. This landscape of potential does not have a lesser ontic status than the physical. The realized physical experience continues into the tapestry of potential. If one is capable of envisioning a landscape of potential as a geometric structure, then they will see that there are areas of overlap. The limits of potential relative to groups of minds define a spectrum from events that are possible but unlikely through to events that are certain to occur. The landscape of potential is not invisible to the human mind. Humans and some animals demonstrate the ability to perceive beyond the limits of their physical senses. Dreaming is the classic example, as well as popular forms of extrasensory perception. What is clear is that the mind spans three modes of attention. The first is conscious attention, which is the attention directed to the constituents of the body. The second is supra-conscious attention, which is the attention directed to the potential as defined by the structure of an individual mind. The third is unconscious attention, which is attention focused on the potential that exists beyond the scope of a given mind. The different modes of attention do not occur in sequence. Rather, they operate continually and take turns coming to the fore. Thus, when one is consciously aware, their mind is still attentive to the landscape of potential. The existence of the mind across different modes of perception suggests that the mind is not contingent upon existence in form. It might be possible to remember past lives, but it is also possible that the record another mind left on the shared structure could be mistaken for one on its own. It is not necessary to rely on accounts of past lives to recognize the continuation of the mind. The human mind is attached to conscious perception, but it is also bound to the supraconscious and the unconscious. When the consciousness is lost, the other attachments remain. The human level of shared perception requires a mind of human scope. From this perspective, the perceptions of the infant are those of a mind of human scope orienting itself to conscious existence. We can also recognize that the structure of existence causes minds to add to experience and thus become more unique in their subjective perspective. The structure of the whole points to the continuation of the individual mind. When we see that the individual mind continues across incarnations, we can more clearly glimpse the structure of a given mind. Each mind is composed of structures of experience particular to single lives in form. It also includes metastructures formed of multiple lives, either in form or in the structure of potential, and it includes structures of experience derived from unconsciousness. With the likely exception of the highest, the nature of minds is that they are changing. This characteristic makes it possible to recognize a shared axis common to all minds, whether they exist in form or not. It also makes it possible to dispense with the science fiction notion of an existing past. The moment is a consequence of the configurations of minds. To the extent that the past can be said to exist, it is as a retained structure across minds in the moment. It might be possible to experience the memory of the past as if one was there, but as the minds that composed it are no longer in that configuration, it is not possible to change the past. The particular character of the human level of existence is a consequence of the nature of the beings here, including those above human perception. Significantly, this realm is characterized by predation. Those with predatory traits are more capable of climbing human hierarchies. The predatory nature of the place is possible because of another characteristic. This place is full of immature minds. The vast majority of humans require that reality be defined for them. The credulous and gullible support the predatory structure and will defend it just as forcefully as the predator class. We can see then that there are different factors that might compel a given mind to this place. The individual factors might be thought of as bespoke or personal deficiencies. It is a difficult thing to acknowledge, but introspection reveals that one knows exactly why they are in this chaotic realm. The traditions that manifest as religious ideologies and cultural forces are egregores. Egregores can persist to the extent that they reflect the underlying shared structure that defines our realm. A given egregore might contain a great deal of truth that transcends this realm, but in order to continue to exist, that higher truth will be embedded in a story that suits this place. The higher must be embedded in the lower. Just as the skateboarding egregore allows each generation to do tricks that were previously impossible, religious egregores make it possible for events to occur that defy physical explanation. Miracles are possible in every significant religious tradition. There is a perennial element that cuts across all significant religions. Monks of all traditions converge on an orientation of submission. From this perspective, one could say that all religious traditions have value. This is not to say that all traditions have the same value to all people. Distinct people groups access different regions of the shared structure and have greater affinity for their own people's egregores. Every religious tradition represents a configuration of the shared structure at the human level of perception. There are levels above human perception. Therefore, every tradition is necessarily incomplete and incorrect. Even the experience of submission is a negation of perception at this level. There is a chain of experience, or changes in individual structure, that precede any transcendent state. Because it is possible to progress towards truth and transcendence, it is not accurate to describe our level of experience as an illusion. An illusion is total. It is more accurate to think of this level as a dilution. The higher is present here in a diffuse form. We can consider what the characteristics of transcendence are at our level of existence and recognize that the consequences of a transcendent state would be different for a being in a higher level or in a more harmonious realm. From the human perspective, non-attachment is non-attachment to this level. It is by recognizing that religious egregores contain both true and untrue elements that we can more clearly see those components of religion that are control mechanisms. The hierarchy of minds and the implied existence of higher worlds suggests that the structure of a given mind compels it to this level of existence. This inertia likely functions at a granular level, so that being born in a particular race or region is related to the structure of a mind. However, when every misfortune is attributed to deficiencies in personal structures, fatalism is the result. Certain proclivities can bring corresponding misfortunes, but misfortune is a feature of this place that finds everybody. Even if one is inclined to treat hardship as an opportunity for development, there is no need to treat every misfortune as a direct punishment corresponding to a forgotten crime. In a similar way, the Abrahamic traditions have their own embedded control mechanisms. The concept of hell is probably the most effective threat that exists. The average person will submit to unjust rulers if they can be made to believe that they must do it to avoid damnation. The idea that the Most High placed angels below men convinces people that they need not pursue higher understandings. Universalism denies the unique perspectives and traditions that are born of different people groups. It is possible to have fealty to higher places by recognizing those elements of the higher that are present here. Synchronicities can be recognized and pursued. In dreams, abilities are revealed that have no connection to the physical senses. Detailed symbolic dreams can come upon one unbidden. This type of experience is clearly different to the standard echo of waking life that characterizes most regular dreams. In the landscape of potential, communication is clearer even without the use of words. By the attention of the supraconscious, one can experience events before they occur in the physical. Higher experiences alone are not the path out. There are countless ugly minds far advanced in occult practices, but they belong here. Being made suitable for higher places means acknowledging the thing that binds one to this place, the secret weakness, the shame at the core. It requires acknowledging that one has been an animal and resolving to be an animal no more.